Okay, you should all see my PowerPoint presentation. What we're going to do here is I'm going to go through this PowerPoint. It's maybe 6 or 7 slides, and we'll talk about the process, but then I'll go and actually log into the Grants Gateway system and do the process. So the point of what I'm doing here is not to get into details about how the different forms that you need to fill out work and what you need to include in the forms. It's generic in that respect, but it's detailed in what you need to do in the Grants Gateway. So this is solely from a Grants Gateway technical perspective, not from a content of your application perspective. So first, I'll point out that the Grants Gateway has a technical help support line, support desk. You can see the email address right here, grantsgateway@its.ny.gov. We have a phone number here in Albany, 518-474-5595. And a very valuable website you should take a look at is the Grants Management website, and that's grantsmanagement.ny.gov. I should mention that we still are in reduced on-site hours because of COVID and the follow-up or effects of that. So there often is not someone at the phone number because we often are working from home. We assure you, it's supposed to be red, but if you email us at that Grants Gateway address, you'll get a very quick response. Most of the time, emails don't go more than, say, 20 minutes without a response. So email is best for us too, because often we may need to include screenshots or other details that are just harder to get across on the phone. So registration. If your organization's already registered, that's fine. You don't have to do it again. But all entities that wish to apply for grants in New York State must be registered in the Grants Gateway. So that includes this process here of filling out a form and mailing it to, I'm sorry, it's not mailing it, but emailing it to us. So you have to fill out and get notarized the registration form, and you have to send that along with an organizational chart and perhaps, in many cases, a substitute W-9 form. The details of that and why are on the website that I'll show you in a few minutes, but the W-9 form is for us to obtain an SFS vendor ID, so that's the statewide financial system. So if you know that your organization already has an SFS ID, you don't need that W-9 form. But this is all explained again on that website and on our registration form. So like I said, you can find information at our Grants Management website or in the Grant Opportunity Portal, which is a portion of the Grants Gateway. So it's 2 websites we're talking about, Grants Management and the Grants Gateway. Both of them provide you information about how to apply. So it's really important to understand project or user roles, user accounts in the Grants Gateway. A lot of people get tripped up with this. We get a lot of calls and questions at the help desk regarding it. So I want to make it clear here. And Margaret did a good job of explaining it earlier as well, but we're just going to reiterate some of those things. So when your organization is first set up, we set up 1 or usually 2 accounts, and those are both grantee delegated administrators. Those users can work on adding and editing other user accounts. So that's all they do in the Grants Gateway for a municipality. You may have heard of pre-qualification. That's something for not-for-profits only. This user, the grantee delegated administrator, would also deal with pre-qualification. But if you're a municipality, you don't have to worry about it. So again, this person only manages user accounts and can't get into contracts, applications, or anything like that. Next, we have someone in the role of grantee. That's someone who can start, save, and edit an application, but they can't submit the application. So that would be somebody like, for instance, a grants writer. Maybe you have a grant writer who's going to work on the application, but somebody else at your organization is going to end up submitting it. And you can have more than one. If you have somebody working on different sections, that's fine. There's not too many sections in this application, though, that you would really need to do that. And then what Margaret was talking about earlier are these 2, the grantee contract signatory and the grantee system administrator. And they pretty much have similar or almost the same abilities in the system. They can do everything that a grantee can do, which is start, save, and edit an application, but they can also sign and submit the application. And that's really important because, again, we need somebody that can do that. There's a typo on the bottom here. Cross these out. Of course, it's the same. The grantee system administrator also can do the same thing. They can sign contracts as well. So you need sign applications. So you need one of these people at your organization, either the grantee contract signatory or the grantee system administrator. You need to have somebody set up in one of those roles to be able to submit the application. And you have to do that obviously ahead of that due date. If you're going to wait till the last minute, maybe you were working as a grantee and then you want to start setting it up, this new user, you might not have enough time. So we want to make sure you get prepared and do it ahead of time. So back to a little more information about the user roles. Like I said, the grantee delegated administrator can add new accounts and work in the document vault, which is again related to not-for-profits, but cannot work on grants applications. So you need to have somebody in your organization with a role that can sign and submit an application, and that's that grantee contract signatory and the grantee system administrator. Again, a grantee can start an application but can't actually submit it. It's certainly acceptable for one person to have multiple roles and thus multiple accounts. So if you need more than one account, if you need more than one role in the gateway, you're going to have more accounts, more than one account. So certainly there might be somebody who is a grantee delegated administrator and separately is a grantee contract signatory. So that's fine. You can set up that person with even the same email address, and you can even set it with the same password, but of course they would need to be two different accounts. So you need to know which account to log into. Another thing we get a lot of questions for and issues with at the help desk is this last bullet point here, which is people trying to change user roles. So the grantee delegated administrator it appears, does have the ability to change someone's role, and they think, oh, well, I need this person to be in a signatory role, let me just change it. While that appears to work, it doesn't actually work. It actually results in a kind of a hybrid account, making that account unusable. So don't change someone's role, your role or somebody else's. If they need a new account, if they need a new role, they need a new account, an additional account. Okay, so it's important to understand those roles. It is, again, in some of the manuals that you have as well, and other references, other documents of reference that we're providing you as well. So when it comes to the gateway, what are the next steps? So first, of course, make sure your organization is registered in the gateway. If you don't know, you can contact us at the help desk. Somebody at your organization may know about it and you may not be aware. We can check that out for you. Once you are registered, again, ensure you have people set up with the right roles that we just talked about. And then, like I said, contact the Grants Gateway Help Desk if you're unsure of if your organization is registered, or if you have an account, or if you're unsure if you have an account. And again, email is best. And please provide us the full name of your organization. Sometimes people will send an email and not have anything in their signature or nothing that identifies what organization they're with, and they say, hey, are we registered? And we don't know what you're talking about. So try to give us as much detail as you can when you ask a question to the help desk. So that was the Grants Gateway. The application as a whole workflow includes things that you're doing in the gateway online, things that you're doing offline from some of the documents you retrieve from the TAP-CMAQ website. So you do need to go to that website and download the documents. I'll show you that in a minute. You, of course, need to start your Grants Gateway application. You need to, we strongly suggest you refer to the application instructions for specific questions. There's a Q&A document. They really do provide enough information for you, a good amount of information to get you going. Certainly, you can refer back to this video. Like I said, we're recording it, and it'll be posted on YouTube, and you'll be able to jump around in the video to certain parts as well. I suggest that you answer the questions, the specific questions, in a word processing document, such as Word. That'll help you organize your answers, and it'll be easier to manage. What I'm saying is not to natively answer your questions in the Grants Gateway. You'll end up copying and pasting them in the Gateway. But if you do it, if you try to type everything in the Grants Gateway from scratch, you might get a little confused. It might kind of slow things down a bit, and you'll see why when I get into the system. You've got all the different forms on the TAP-CMAQ website. Fill out those forms. Save them, name them properly for yourself to remember which one is which, kind of double check it. You don't want to name something the wrong thing and then upload the wrong thing to the wrong place in the gateway. Eventually, when you get back into the gateway, you'll upload those completed forms into the Grants Gateway application. Again, I'll show you how to do that. you need to complete all the pages, all the forms in the gateway. The gateway will tell you if you've missed something. And I actually have an application that I've started that I've purposely missed some things so you can see what happens when you get some errors. And then, of course, very important, submit the application on time prior to that deadline of 5 p.m. on September 29th. So as Margaret made clear, the system is not forgiving in that respect. The deadline is 5 p.m. and that's it. If you try to submit it at 4:58, you should be fine. If you try it at 5 o'clock and 50 seconds, it's probably not going to work. So we strongly suggest that you try to submit it 24 or even 48 hours ahead of time. And you'll see why again when I go into the gateway, because maybe you might encounter a problem where you forgot to fill something out and then you're scrambling to find the right attachment or the right document and you could run out of time. So we strongly suggest that you try to do it ahead of time. So I am going to point out a few screenshots here. Yes, we'll get into the gateway as well again and see them, but I just wanted to point them out if anybody's just looking at this PowerPoint and not looking at the video. So everything is done in the Forms menu. When you access your application, you'll get to the Forms menu there. And this is an example of the program-specific questions. And I wanted to point out how some of these are laid out. Like, for instance, this question number 29. You might not be able to see it. It might be a little too small to read, but this is the project status. So they want you to enter the corresponding number for the project status. The way these are laid out is because the Grants Gateway in this program-specific questions section that we're going to look at doesn't have, for instance, a drop-down menu. So it'd be nice if we could provide you a drop-down choice and you can pick not started or planning stage or whatever it is. But unfortunately, we don't have that. So the best way we've come up to do it is this. Question 29 says, tell us what the project status is. 29A means it's not started. 29B says it's in planning stage. 29C says preliminary engineering, and so on. So the applicant here typed 29B, which is telling DOT, okay, we're in the planning stage right here, which is 29B. So that's the point of some of these questions, is basically kind of a workaround or a way of us showing you multiple choice types, not multiple choice, but drop-down type questions. So that's the idea behind those types of questions. The budget. So you're going to be filling out a budget form. There's a budget worksheet you can work on, and you'll be putting your budget into two places. One in the gateway in that forms menu, there's the capital budget. And there's only two sections that you care about or that you're allowed to get into, and that's other and capital summary, and I'll show you those. But you also have to upload your budget information in the Grants Gateway section called pre-submission uploads. So we'll get to that as well. So two parts of the gateway where you'll be filling out and entering or submitting budget information. And you'll get your budget details from the project budget that you're working on. So there is a spreadsheet here that DOT has provided to help you fill out and to figure out your budget and to determine what characters, what fields go where. So what you fill out here, I've got so many arrows going on now, and that total project cost is going to go right here in total cost in the Grants Gateway. And then they tell you to type total project cost in one of the fields. So we'll do that. So I'm just pointing out here that the information you fill out on a spreadsheet will be something you enter into the Grants Gateway as well. And along the same lines, once you get into the project budget, the details of what's called the summary, you'll see that there's two things you need to fill out here that correspond to what you put in your Excel budget. You've got the amount of funds requested, that's this black arrow going to here, and you've got the amount of additional funds requested, that's this match column here in the green arrow. The system will calculate a match, and the match will not be wrong, so will not be right, so don't worry about it. We can see we kind of exit off here. Don't be concerned if the match is displaying wrong if you've done the math. As the spreadsheet up top will tell you if what you've entered is correct or is allowable, I should say. And then we also have the pre-submission uploads page. I talked about the budget would be uploaded here. Just pointing out that there's the uploads here in the gateway, and there's corresponding documents on the DOT TAP-CMAQ website. So for instance, there's the pre-review comment form. Well, that's right here, right? So you can see those forms can be found on the TAP-CMAQ website. You've got the project estimate. You've got the checklist and a couple other things here. So these are things that you can get on the TAP-CMAQ website, and you may need to include in the Grants Gateway application as well. And importantly, there is at the end, again, hopefully 48 or 24 hours ahead of time to submit the application. You will do what's called a status change. It'll give you the option here to apply the status of application submitted. You certainly wouldn't want to cancel it, which is that other status. I've seen people do that by mistake. But if you did that by mistake, you could give us a call if you did it ahead of time, and we could fix it for you. But ensure you're logged in with the right role, and be sure to give yourself enough time to submit your application. So you'll click on Apply Status, and then there'll be this agreement that is basically saying you are who you say you are, you haven't given your password to somebody, and you're going to submit it by clicking that I agree button. So once that I agree button is clicked, your application is now submitted, and you'll get some affirmations of that as well, which I'll show you when I get into the system. So that's the last page. Let me just see if there's any chats specifically, questions specifically to me. Looks like no. Okay, so now we're done with that part. I'm going to get in and actually share my screen and get into the Grants Gateway system. Okay, so before I get into the Grants Gateway, I'm going to go to a couple websites here. First of all is the Grants Management website. So I referred to that already, grantsmanagement.ny.gov. And this is our website, which is help and resources for the Grants Gateway. So if you want to register your organization, if you've never done that yet, you go to Get Started and then register your organization. Pretty simple. And then we've got an overview and detailed instructions on how to do it. The forms and supporting information is all here. So this will get you where you need to go as far as registration. It's all here. I had mentioned before that it's in the Grants Gateway as well. I'll show you where that is when I get into the Gateway. We do have more training and guidance here. You can see under training and guidance for grant applicants. So you can click on this. And there's some information that might be helpful to you. I wouldn't worry about the webinars, though, because the webinar we're doing here is more detailed and specific to the TAP-CMAQ instead of generic, which our other webinars are. But there are documents, including our vendor user manual right here at the bottom. So that'll get you everything you need. And information about roles is on page 19, starting on page 19 here in the vendor user manual. And then one more thing about the menu here, apply and manage, there's apply for a grant. I wouldn't worry about that as well because again, the specific directions on the TAP-CMAQ website are specific to this and a lot more detailed. So I would go here to the TAP-CMAQ website, which you were provided that link, but it's dot.ny.gov/tap-CMAQ, capital letters. And if you get in through here, you can see as we scroll down, there's PDFs and documents and different things that you'll need or you want to look at. Really, most of the questions you'll have are answered here. So, and again, there's that, where is it? The training is, where is it? I just was looking at it. Application instructions right here, Appendix E. This is very useful. This will walk you through all the steps that you need to do. And then there's the documents down here that you'll need to download. So what I'm going to do in my application that I'm starting, it's just, you know, a fake application. I've downloaded some of these forms and filled them out or just put in placeholders where you, of course, will have downloaded the actual forms and actually filled them out and provided us the actual documents. Okay, so I'm going to get into the Grants Gateway, and I'm right here, actually. And I'm actually going to log out first just to show you. I'm in our test system. So besides going to the test system, I'm going to go to live system right now. This is the Grants Gateway, and you can see the address is grantsgateway.ny.gov. I want to point out that some people are in the habit of typing www first. And if you were to do that, you'd get this error saying the site is not secure. You could still go on to it, but you'd have this red error message here, and it's not a secure site. That's just because the state doesn't use www in their addresses. So don't use www. Go to just grantsgateway.ny.gov without the www. Now, I talked about you might want to find the registration form here. Well, you can do that without logging in. That's the registration button down here in the bottom right. Click on Request Access Now, and it gives you a link directly to that form. So you're going to the same place, but you can get to the form here as well through the Grants Gateway. The other thing is the portal, the Grant Opportunity Portal. This is another thing that we get a lot of times with people calling the help desk or emailing us saying, I clicked on the portal, I found the TMAQ, TAP-CMAQ, but I couldn't start the application. Because this is not where you start an application. You don't do it in the portal. So if I go here to search and search for CMAQ and hit search, I can find it and I can click on it. And the instructions say that there'll be a button here to start your application, but not if you're in the portal. The portal is just for viewing the grant opportunity, not for actually starting the grant application. So a lot of people come to the portal here, they think they're expecting to see the apply button here, and they don't, and they get confused. Well, that's why. It's not in the portal, it's on the main website. So let's do that. I'm gonna go into the website, but again, I'm gonna go to my test website here. And I'm gonna log in. And I happen to be a user in the role of grantee contract signatory. So you know that's the right role. Just see if there's any chat questions. Nope. Okay. All right. So it says, welcome, Jeff. It affirms that I am in that role of grantee contract signatory. You can see there's a couple options here. Later on, we'll talk about finding your application up here in applications. But what you want to do is go to view available opportunities to start your application. You're going to find where that TAP-CMAQ opportunity is. So you log in with the right role, you click on view opportunities. So this just gives you an option to scroll through them all. There's a lot of them there. So instead, let's just type in some the whole or partial word. I'm going to type in CMAQ and then hit search. Now I've found all of the opportunities that have CMAQ in them, and of course there's only the one. It was made available on July 1st, and there's that date again, September 29th at 5 p.m. is when it's due. So if I click on this, this should look just like that page I saw in the portal, right? Except now I've got this button here, apply for grant opportunity. So that's where people get confused going through the portal instead of through the home page. So we can see it's got a grant opportunity ID. Our application number will be based on that. We can see other information here. We've got an email here if we have questions about it. We have the dates that we talked about. We have the amount of funding that's available. Other information here, there's a link to the TAP-CMAQ website. If you look down in the bottom left here, when I hover over it, that goes to the TAP-CMAQ website. I could go and click on it and get brought to it. Again, that website we were just at. But I'm going to start the application. So apply for grant opportunity. Now notice it says I've already got one application in process. That's because there's a whole bunch of questions that we need to fill out. And instead of having you watch me type 50 answers to 50 questions, I did it ahead of time. So we're going to start with a blank one, and then I'll jump into that other one in a few minutes. So apply for grant opportunity. So this gives me a warning that, hey, you've already started an application. We know that, but again, I just explained why. So if you did start one already and you started a second one, it would just give you this warning, making sure that you realize you've already started one. And it's processing. In a few seconds, I'll be in a blank application. So I am, and I'm in application number 00005. So I'm the 5th person to have started a TAP-CMAQ application for 2021. So that's my application number, and you can see we're brought to the application main page. And if you take a look at these details, you can see it's a little drop down. If I click on that, one thing to take note of is this status, application in process. So of course we just started it, it's in process, and once we submit it later, you'll see that application status will change. Again, there's a due date affirming that it's due on 9/29 at 5 p.m. There's nothing else we can really do here on this main page. So the majority of what we do is going to be here in the Forms menu. You can see as I hover over it, it pops up. Same with all these other items in the green buttons, but we don't want you to just hover it and find it. It's kind of hard. Sometimes it disappears if you just, one pixel off to the left here. So it's a lot easier just to click on the word forms and be brought to the forms menu. And this is, as the name implies, a list of all the forms or a menu of all the forms that you need to fill out. Now, contract document properties, you can skip that. You don't have to worry about that. What this is, I'm going to click on it anyway. It's an example of what a contract would look like through the state. However, DOT is not using the Grants Gateway contracting system, so you wouldn't have to worry about this. This really has no bearing on what we're doing, so we're going to click back on Forms menu. So that section you can ignore. Same thing with print application. Full version of RFP will give you that link again, which you've already been to. Application instructions, I forget if it's the actual instructions. It is. Oh, I got an error because I'm in a test system here, but that is a link to the actual instructions. Application versions will only be there once you submit your application. So after you submit it, what it does is it takes about 10 or 15 minutes to compile a PDF, but you'll find a PDF of your entire application here and application versions when you're done. That's something that DOT will use as when they review your applications, because it'll all be enclosed in one PDF. So again, from these first 6 items here, or 5 items, the only thing you really care about is application instructions if you haven't clicked on them already, and the application versions, which will only be available once you submit your application. So the meat of the the meat of the application is these sections here: program information, capital budget, and pre-submission uploads. So we'll start with project site addresses. You can see the name of my organization, by the way, is Sample County Department of Public Works. So we'll click on project site addresses, and I'll just write Sample County project name here. No, it is not statewide, and where are we running this project out of? It's 123 Main Street, any town in Albany County, 12345. And then you can see there's 2 drop downs here that you must fill out. If I was to hit save on this page right now, you can see there's a blue save button up here in the top right. If I was to hit save, it would save that. So that's good. It saved the information I worked on, but it gives me 2 errors. I didn't include the regional council or the agency specific region. So if we scroll down here, regional council, if you're not aware of the state regional economic councils, you can search for them. I think there's probably links to it, that information in the documentation on the TAP-CMAQ website as well. But that's at regional, I forget what it's called. If you just search for regional economic councils, you'll find it. But anyway, I'm in Capital Region since I picked Albany here. And then what agency-specific region? And you can see, again, more reference to that in the TAP-CMAQ website, but you can see, unfortunately, it's ordered in numeric order, in alphabetical order, so it goes a little out of order, but you get the point here. And I'm going to pick Region 1 Albany, and I'll hit save. Now, once I hit save, since I satisfied all these requirements, these errors should go away. And I've done that, and that worked fine. By the way, let's talk about the web browser. I happen to be in Internet Explorer 11, which is obviously an older browser. The system was developed to work specifically with IE 11, but it works fine with all the other websites. There's one part of it that doesn't display correctly, but that's the work plan, and that's not something you'll be dealing with here in your application, so I wouldn't worry about it. So it works fine with Chrome and Firefox and Edge and Safari. Okay, so we did the addresses. Let's go back to the Forms menu, and we're going to go to really the meat of it, which is the program-specific questions. Okay, so again, it asks you for your project title, and there's a bunch of questions. And again, these questions are provided to you ahead of time in the TAP-CMAQ website. In the instructions, there's a couple places where these questions are. So again, my suggestion would have been to maybe fill it out in a Word document so you have these ready to go, and then you can just come into the Grants Gateway and copy and paste your answers in. Now these are obviously easy. You can type in the first few. Oh, pretty simple. And then project details, we get in here. So this is one of those questions where, again, it's that kind of choice that you're making. Enter the corresponding number, letter combo, that best describes the sponsor type for the options listed below in 5A or 5H. So what are you? Are you a local government, county, town, city, village? Are you a transit agency? Are you tribal land government, et cetera? So I'm going to be a 5A, or I am a 5A, let's say, and I type in 5A. So that's how you answer those types of questions. Number 6, we get into county. Number 7, enter the date the sponsor attended the workshop. So we talked about that earlier, or at least Margaret talked about it earlier, which is the date. So today, obviously, those of you here will be typing in today's date, which is right down here, July 14th. So I'm going to hit save in a second here and save what I've started. Now, obviously, I haven't finished this page, and there's a lot of things that are required. You can see a red asterisk means it's a required field. So I'm going to get a big number of errors. If I hit save, I got all these errors. Well, that's fine. I know that I still haven't done those yet, but it does save these so that I can come back later and work on it. So you don't have to do it in all one sitting. Another thing about saving, though, realize is you should be saving periodically. And the reason is the system will time you out if you're inactive for 15 minutes. So you may think you're active here going in and typing in these fields, but that's not what the system sees. The system only thinks you're active once you hit the save button, and that resets that timeout timer. So make sure you're hitting save every 5 or 10 minutes. You don't want to get to that point where you've typed in so much information and then the system logs you out and you didn't save it and you've lost everything. So I'm not going to go and fill out all these questions right now because I've done it in the other sample application that I started. We're going to look at that in a few minutes after I go through these other pages. So we know this page is not done yet, but we'll get to it, back to it in a few minutes. So we'll go back to the forms menu. And you can see there's that error because I didn't finish that page. Then we've got the budget, which is the other category and capital summary. And we've got the pre-submission uploads. So I think I'm going to log out now or get out of this application now and get into that one I've started and show you where we are. Actually, you know what? Before I do, I'm going to click on pre-submission uploads first. So pre-submission uploads is all those attachments you need to provide. And again, when you see red asterisks, it's a field you need to fill out. Might be kind of hard to read. You can see things are kind of jumbled together, but you can look at it this way. So it's the title, the comment or description, the box to make your attachment. Now it says browse here in Internet Explorer. It might say the word choose file. I think it says choose file in Chrome or Firefox. Regardless, it's the option to save here. And then the template is the document that DOT is providing us as a template to fill out. So if I was to click on this, now I can't click on it just because I'm in our test system, it'll give me an error, but I'll go here and just out these characters, and now it'll let me download it and open it up. And it's right here. That's the document that I just downloaded. So you would be able to just, let me go back here. You would be able to just click here, and you'll be able to download it, and now you're into the form here that you can fill out. Now I want to show, people get confused about this part too. So detailed project budget estimate. I'm going to upload something here. If I click on browse and I go to the documents here, and I just have a sample document. I'll just pick this another document.pdf. You can see it shows the path to where it is on my desktop. And when I hit save, up in the top blue bar there, I hit save. It saves it. Now I get the error because there's other required fields that I didn't do yet. But people say, oh, it doesn't show that I uploaded it because they're not noticing this view file. They think the text or the path should be found here again. Well, that's not the way it works. View file is where they see what they've uploaded. So now these sections here are part of this one detailed project budget estimate section. So I click on view file. That'll allow me to download the PDF right here that I just attached, and this is just, it just says here's another document. It's not a real document, but you get the point. So I browsed, I saved it, and then I can see it here under View File. Okay, so what I'm going to do is now get out of this application and go to the one that I had previously started. So if I go home, I clicked on home in the top left here. Again, I'm Jeff, the grantee contract signatory. I have two tasks here. If I click on Open Task, it's because I started one earlier today. That's application number 004 here. And I started one just a few minutes ago with all of you, and that's this application number 005. So if you're the person that started the application, you'll always have it as a task. So it's very easy to get back into it and find it because it's on your home page, home, view open tasks, and boom, you can see it here and click on it and get back into it. But if you're not the person that started it, let's say your grantee started it, and now you're the contract signatory and you want to submit it, and it's not in your task. Well, you can find it this way as well, up here under Applications. Now, these are my first and only two applications in the history of the Grants Gateway for my organization. So I can just make sure it's clear. You can hit clear if you want first, and then hit search. It'll find all applications my organization has ever started, and of course, I only have two. But if your organization has several of them, you can just type in here, CMAQ, and then hit search, and then find it as well, right? Or I know it's application number 0004. If I typed in 00004, or even just 4, and hit search, you can see now there's only one result because, of course, the other one was 00005. So either way you do it, if it's on your home page in your tasks, or you go here to Applications and search for it, you have to click on the application number to get back into it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to go back into 004, which is the one I started earlier today. So you can see I've called it Main Street Traffic Calming and Bicycle Improvements. And if I go to the Forms menu, I still have some errors, but I don't have as many as I did for the one we just did. So if I go to Program-Specific Questions, I missed question 51, 57, and 59. So you know what? I'm not going to finish this because I'm going to try to submit my application later, forgetting about those errors, and you'll see what happens. But let's go here to our budget, and we'll fill out the budget. So I'm going to go back to the TAP-CMAQ website, and they do have the budget spreadsheet to fill out. And that is right here, this budget summary worksheet. And I've already downloaded it and I've already filled it out. I just want to show you something quick about working in it. So here it is. It's pretty simple. I just put in random numbers here, obviously. But my project cost is 1.233337. So what it does is it fills out those fields, and they want you to type what your pretty much just in the blue fields here. So local match provider name and the amount of match funds required here. So let's say I put in here my match, and I put in $187,500. What if I put in $10? So I don't have enough match funds, right? At $483,000 I need. So you can see this red, and it's not going to allow it. So if I put in $500,000 here, it allows that. And this 1233337 comes from this total right here. So I've typed in these fields, right? You can see now my number is too low, right? Because I don't have anything in construction. It's only $788,000, and I don't have enough here. So let's put in my construction, and now you can see it validates and the numbers are right. So I wanted to point that out because this is where you're going to get that information from and put it into the Grants Gateway. So I'm going to go back to the Gateway, and I'm going to go back to the budget, and we can see we got the two fields here, Other and Capital Summary. So I'm not going to use those numbers. I'm going to use a different number here. So let's see. So my type description, they want you to just put in a number here. So I'm going to say 1326250. And then the total cost is also going to be 1326250. So that's the project numbers that we got. Obviously, it's a different number here, but that's the project numbers that we got here from the worksheet. I'm using this because I had in another example, I'm using these numbers. Okay, so I filled it in, I hit save, I got the green light that says good, everything's saved, and I'm done with this page. One more section in the budget section is the capital summary. So I did other, and I'm going to go to capital summary. And you can see this page is blank, and I need to fill out what I'm putting in for each section. So what do I have for grant funds, and what do I have for matching funds? So my grant funds, I can read what I wrote here earlier, 1061, I'm short one. No, that's good. And then my match is 265, 250. And then I'll hit save. And if I did my math right, these two should add up to 1,326,250. So I hit save. System is saving it, and I didn't get an error, so that's good. And that's why, because they add up correctly. So if I did this wrong, and I hit save, the system gives me an error, right? Because 1061 does not, plus 265,200 does not equal 1,326,250. So I forgot that $50 here, and if I hit save, it'll fix that error. So the idea here is, again, adding up your grant funds plus your match funds, that's your total contract, or your total ask amount, your project amount, and it calculates that match here at 25%. Again, you can ignore that. That's not the real number that we're concerned about. Okay? So my budget's done. If I go back to Forms menu, the last thing that needs to be done here is pre-submission uploads. And I started it. So I uploaded my pre-review comment form. There's view file, there's the document I included. I uploaded my project estimate. I uploaded the detailed project schedule. So, but it tells me verification of match assurance requires an upload. I missed that section. So we go down and find verification of match assurance, and indeed, it has a red asterisk, but I don't have a view file under it. I didn't attach the right document. So I'll click on Browse. I'll go find it. I just put a sample document here, and I'll hit Save. So a note about attachments here. We say it right here in the explanation as well. The system allows PDF, DOCs or DOCX, XLSX. So basically Word, Excel, PDFs, and image documents. I'm sorry, not image documents. So you may have images, right? Those images have to be saved as a PDF. So if I go here and look at this map that I included, and I click on View File, it's just, I grabbed the map off the internet of New York State, or of Albany. So this is a PDF though. You can see sample Albany map.png. But it is, well, I guess it is a PNG, I'm sorry, but we do want you to save it as a PDF. I just uploaded the wrong thing. It definitely is a lot helpful to save it as a PDF. I also want to mention the attachment size. So each attachment, individual attachments, is limited to 10 megabytes per attachment. So if you have a very large map, you might you want to make sure that it's less than 10 megabytes or about 10 megabytes. The system actually allows slightly over that, but that's really our limit we're talking about here. So we do provide you some extra sections down below, other applicable information, other applicable information. So there's 5 sections here where you could browse and attach something else in case that there was something else that you're missing. So I just included something, and I'll hit save here. Okay, so I'm done with this page, the pre-submission uploads. Everything that has a red asterisk, I've attached something to. If I were you, I would make sure that what you attached is really what you intended, right? So if you click on View File here, you should expect to see your pre-review comment form, not your map. If you click View File here, you should see your project estimate, not something else. So I would, as a last step on this page, I would click on View File for each one of these and ensure, yep, That's the document I intended to include in this particular section. Okay, so we're done, or we think we're done, because we know that there's some errors that I forgot to do, but we'll ignore that for now. Go back to the Forms menu. I should get errors on program-specific questions when I try to submit this. So I'm someone in the right role. Again, remember, I'm a grantee contract signatory. We're at the status of application in process, and it's now, let's say, it's September 15th, and I'm happy with everything, and I want to go and submit my application. So easy enough, hover over here on status changes and apply that status of application submitted. And it says, wait a minute, question 51, 57, and 59 require responses. So again, if you waited until 4:59 on the 29th to do this, you might be running out of time right now. So I can click here on program-specific questions. It brings me to the page that has the issue, and it reminds me 51, 57, and 59. I'll go back down here, answer these questions. 51, if it was a no, explain why. If it was yes, type NA. There's a bunch of questions like that. 57, again, I'll do an A. And 59, did a New York State professional engineer review this project? If yes or no, and let's say I did, and I uploaded it in the pre-submission uploads page. And then 60, you can see is not required. I could type in whatever I wanted there, and then I'll hit save. So those errors should go away. And they have. This page is now good. There's no problems with it. I want to point out one other problem you might encounter, which is with these fields that have specific character limits. 4,000 is a lot, but let's just say I exceed the 4,000. Just pasting here, and now I'm over 4,000, right? I'm 4,872. If I hit save, it gives me the error. So not only does it give me an error, but it didn't actually save my page. So if you tried to save something that exceeded the limits of the field, you're not even going to be allowed to save the page. It'll show you this error message right here. So I'm just going to go and fix that, and now I'm back down to 406 characters. So be aware of that, and it's a character count, not a word count. So you should know the number of characters. That's something you can do in Microsoft Word as well. All right, so I'm good here, right? This page has been saved, no errors, everything looks good. I can go back to status changes. You can click on it if you want. I'm just hovering over it, and I'm going to click Apply Status to Application Submitted. And now I get to that agreement that I showed you in the PowerPoint before. I click on I agree, and it's processing. Don't close this page. Let it keep processing. That's very important in the gateway. You can see up in my top left, it was spinning, and now it's done spinning, and now it's been submitted. So how do I know it's been submitted? A couple ways. One is I'm still in it right now, but if I go back to details, remember we were in the status of application in process? Well, now it's in assignment of reviewers. So it's been sent to DOT. They now are going to assign it to our reviewers to look at it. That's one way of knowing it, by looking at the current status. Another way is going back to home or your tasks. So I click on home and my task, and now I only have one task, right? Because I submitted the one. The other one was that application number 005 that I started and just haven't completed yet. So that's another way of knowing it's no longer in a task. Another way, which is obviously very simple, is the system just sent me an email and it says, congratulations, your application has been submitted. Pretty straightforward there. And then finally, I could go and search under applications and find it. So right, application number 004, or if I just look for CMAQ, I can see there's two of them, right? One of them is assignment of reviewers, that's the one we just did, and the other one is that 005, which I didn't submit yet and I didn't complete yet. So I can go back here and click on it. Obviously, I can't make any changes. If I went to the Forms menu and I went back to the program-specific questions, sure, I can type anything I want in any of these fields here, but there's no save button, right? So I've already submitted it, and there's no save button. If you've submitted it, and then you realize when you're looking at it and you say, oh, I messed that up, or I forgot to do this, or whatever, and it's ahead of the deadline, you can request the help desk to send it back to you, and we'll gladly send it back to you. And with obviously the caveat that you have to make sure that you submit it again prior to that deadline. Okay, so one last thing, I don't know if it's ready yet. It's not. I'm waiting for the application versions to appear. So that would be that PDF that encompasses everything I included in my application. It would appear here in application versions. Like I said, it's usually 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes later. In this test system, it should be a bit faster, but right now it's not there yet. I can tell because there's no icon here, but if I click on it, it'll show a link to a PDF here. That's my entire application. All those questions that I answered, all the attachments I've provided, even my maps and everything else that's an image, everything that was provided will be here, and that's the format that DOT will use to review my application. Let me just look at it one more time, see if it's appeared. It has not, but it'll be easy to see, and it'll be easy to understand. It'll encompass everything that you've looked at. So that's really all that I have. That goes through the whole process. Again, please pay attention to the documents that we provide you. There's a lot of good information there. DOT really did a lot of work up front to make it as easy as possible for you and to really, go through everything and every option. So I don't see any questions. There were no questions typed into the chat, so that's a good sign. DOT, do you have anything you want me to go over or anything you want me to reiterate?
I think that you did a great job today, Jeff. We are checking to see if we're getting any questions in the chat, and it says, can we have this presentation? So I will repeat the same instructions that we started with. This is being recorded. So a recording will be posted on the website. It may not be up until early next week because the recording has to be reviewed and submitted and posted. But there will be a recording on the website. So you'll get this information. You can go back and revisit it. Do we have any other questions for Jeff that you can type into the chat now?
And if anybody's typing, the application version has just appeared. So Margaret, perfect timing there. If I click on application versions, I can see the entire PDF that I submitted today at 3:30 p.m. It's the application number and then the date and timestamp of when I submitted it. And if I was to click on this, you don't have to, but you can save this for your files if you want. Again, this is what DOT will use, but if you click on it and download it, I'm just going to open it. This is your application in its entirety. So I'm going to go through it right now.
And a reminder, the number that Jeff has just shown you on the screen, that number is important because that's the number we want you to place on your pre-review application request. If you have any questions about your application, you need to have that number available so that we can refer to your application.
Yep, and that's found in many places when you search, when you are in the application itself, so you should be able to find it pretty easily. But back to this PDF cover page on page 1 here. I don't know why my zoom in, zoom out is, there we go. Cover page has your application number, the time you submitted it, how much you're asking for, my vendor ID. Next page is the submission information. This is just that certification that I agreed to when I submitted it. Project site addresses. So remember that was one of the pages we had to fill out. That's my address that I filled out, 123 Main Street in Anytown. You can see the project title is on every page, by the way. Now we get into those program-specific questions. So there's the salutation and the primary contact information. Here is the answer to 5. So remember, for 5, I picked that I was a 5A, a local government. So that's why we have that 5 and 5A there. And then I put in my county and so on. So a lot of these questions you can see I just wrote application text added here, application text added here. You obviously would have real text here. And I'm going to show you one more thing before we get out of this. So there's a PDF, all those questions and answers that I've provided. We'll get past that. You can see I added those extra comments at the end there. And then our budget. So there's that summary of the capital budget, and it was the other category was the only one we used. There's those numbers we filled out, and that they add up to the $1,326,250. And then the other description has simply the name here, or the amount here. Maybe I should have put in a dollar sign, but and then the total amount there. Then we have our attachments. So you can ignore work plan. This is just a default part of the system, but DOT is not using it. And you might remember that was not on our forms menu. There was no work plan there. So what's supposed to show now is the attachments, and they're not. That's simply because we're in the test system, and I do remember there was some problems with it before. But there should be several more pages here. I'm only on page 19. There's probably 40 or 50 or 60 pages for you because you will have some of those attachments that we requested. But they will be in here exactly as what you included, the exact documents that you included in the order that they're shown in the pre-submission uploads page. One last thing I want to show. Yes, that was the review of the application after it was submitted. But how can you review it before it was submitted? It's not exactly super easy. You certainly can just go through here and look at each page and look at those uploads. And I strongly suggest you do go back to the uploads and look at that. I just spilled water on my keyboard. But you can do this here, print application. If I click on print application, it'll open it up in a separate page, kind of a one-pager, and it actually allows me to print it. I don't want to print it, I just want to look at it. But you can see here is on one page, everything. Everything except for the attachments, I should say. So here is all those answers to the texts, to the questions that I answered. Here is the budget, the other section, and the capital summary. Again, ignore the work plan, objectives, tasks, performance measures, ignore those. Those are that work plan that you're not using. And then it does say that the pre-submission uploads are here, but they're just not clickable, right? I can't click on the file that I've attached. But again, you should have gone into the gateway, into the pre-submission uploads, and you should have verified your attachments by clicking on View File here. All right, so this document will show you everything that's in there, but most importantly, the budget and the answers you provided to the questions in the program-specific questions. So that should do it. Margaret or DOT, if you have anything else to add, go ahead.
Yeah, there was just a question that was in the chat, and so this is a good one to the way you're displaying the application is a saved application but not submitted, available for pre-review. So we talked about that a little bit earlier. Yes, if a sponsor submits a request for an application pre-review, it will not be a submitted application, it will be a saved application. So we're going to go in kind of like what you're in now, Jeff. So DOT staff would go in and view the application, you know, as to what is saved at the point that they request the pre-review. So it won't be a submitted application, it'll be a saved application. You're not going to submit until it's final, and everything's done. So we do the pre-review on a saved application. It won't be a submitted application until you're done. Mm-hmm.
Yep, which is this status application in process.
Exactly, yes.
So that's the whole point of pre-review, is to look at it before you submit it.
Exactly, thank you.
So you would have given them this application number, and someone at DOT would go in and enter in this number and find it and look at your specific application.